Welcome back to Purchase Progress Studios. I'm your host, Sydney Nocerino. Flooding here at Purchase College has been a prominent problem this year, causing anxiety and stress among the students affected. This past month, we have seen continuous heavy rainstorms that have led to students scrambling to move their car the day out of on the Central 4 and 5 parking lots that are prone to flooding. Some students have complained about the lack of notice they get, as well as the alternatives they can find to put their cars. Some can't get a spot, or even some students say they have moved their car to West 2, for example, and still have been paranoid of it flooding after seeing puddles pile up. Mike Copas, the Senior Director of Facilities and Capital Planning here at Purchase, said there's currently a redesign of Central 4 and 5 parking lots underway, creating a new stormwater system in which the new improvements will help hold water overflow. This new water system will also help ensure that what happened with the old apartments in the beginning of the year will never happen again. This is where the anxiety from students all started right at the beginning of the year in September due to Hurricane Ida. With me today to share her thoughts about what's happening with these plans is someone who's at the forefront of the damage and lived in one of said old apartments, Brielle Nostro. Hi, Brielle.
Hi, Sydney.
So can you take me back to that day when it all happened?
Yeah, I believe it was about 4 days into fall semester of 2021. My roommate and I were in the living room, and our third roommate was coming home, and the rain was starting to pour, but we didn't really think anything of it. And then our roommate came in from driving completely soaked and was talking about how bad the weather was. And probably about 5 minutes later, as we're talking in the living room, we have a puddle of water in our living room. And within about 30 minutes, we have a foot of water in our entire apartment. Yeah. And we eventually left with like 6 inches of water at the door. And we made our way to the offices in the old to stay there until about 1 a.m. And then we were relocated to the new, at a new apartment.
And how much was damaged throughout all of it?
We were super lucky. The police did not help. The campus NYPD? No, the campus UPD, thank you. The campus UPD did nothing. We tried calling them multiple times, even just for blankets when we got to the new apartment or anything, and they never responded. Our upstairs neighbors, bless their hearts, actually came in bathing suits and broke in through our screen window in the living room, and there was about 5 to 7 of them grabbing all of our kitchen appliances, all of our instruments, my roommate's fish, and brought them upstairs. So probably only about, for me personally, $1,000 damage, which is still a lot.
Yeah.
But it could have been a lot worse if Purchase students weren't so kind.
Right. And then going to the parking lots, which I mentioned earlier, your car was also ruined as well.
Oh yeah, yes. Yeah, the car, it flooded all the way up to the hood of the car, so it was completely submerged in water, and it was just non-repairable, unfortunately.
Oh. And in response to that, Mike Copas said, well, there is a sign right in front of that parking lot, and there were emails apparently. One email sent. Were you aware of those?
Yeah. After the flood, I started doing some research about it to find out if this has happened in the past and things like that. And I did go back into the emails to see, and I believe that email went straight to my spam. And I'm aware that we have a Purchase College alert text message system. Right. So if this has been an issue that's always happening, I'm confused why they didn't use that system instead, because no one saw. They sent the email, and I think the last sentence was, Central 4 and 5 parking lots are prone to flooding. Mm-hmm. And that's all they said.
Right. And they didn't give you any information on where to put your car, nothing like that?
No. The only places where you could put it and not get a ticket would be West 1 or West 2. Mm-hmm. But then already if it's torrential downpouring and you have to drive your car all the way there, if you do live in the old, that's quite a hike back.
Right. And you mentioned the alert system. Do you have any other ideas of how else they could better it?
I think the alert system, should be used for things like that. Also, maybe not having they really need to fix the parking lot. I think that's the number one thing, because if a parking lot is prone to flooding, I'm confused why people are still allowed to park there, especially with how much rain has been happening and like we've been getting. I think if it happened once, these students are paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and going into debt. They should at least feel safe to park their cars, you know, that they're also paying for a parking spot as well.
Yeah, exactly. And if I'm correct, in the beginning of the spring semester, they told you guys you can go back into the old apartments if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And you chose not to, which
I did.
Very reasonable. But do you think, was there some sort of like anxiety in that decision as well? Like, what if this happens again? I don't want to go back there.
Oh, 100%. The floors of our apartment, when the water came up, there was water underneath the floorboards. So like we were like pushing down on them as they were going up and down. So they had to completely change the floors, but it kind of just seems like they just fixed the floors, but it can still happen again. And yeah, we just were not willing to take that risk. And, you know, once you settle into an apartment, you really don't want to have to then move everything back. Because they also weren't helpful with us transitioning to a different apartment.
Right. Can you talk more about that, of how they helped at all?
Yeah.
What was the process? What was the communication of it?
So I think the flooding and everything happened at around 10 to 11 at night, and we didn't get into the apartments in the commons until about 1:30 in the morning. And then I got an email the next day that said we have to have everything out by tomorrow at noon. So they gave us about 24 hours to move everything from the apartment in the old to an apartment in the commons. I was expecting, like, you know, maybe they have those little golf carts and things riding around, you know, maybe they would have someone there to help us with boxes or anything. That didn't happen. They gave us those one bin that you get when you move in to your apartment. They gave us one bin for the three of us for an entire apartment.
Oh my God.
That had to be taken out. So they did not help us with that. My dad ended up coming and just loading stuff in the car and driving it there. With that, it still took about 4 or 6 hours to fully move everything there. And we started at like 12, and I would say at like 4 o'clock, some man that I'm guessing worked at Purchase came on the golf cart and had 5 or 6 undone boxes, like cardboard boxes that weren't made yet. Yeah. And we're like, here you go. We're like, we don't really need that now, but thanks anyway, I guess. Yeah, they were not very helpful with that at all, really.
And back to the administration, Mike Hopa says there is a plan underway. He doesn't know the date of when that will be finished. It could be a year. I know you are graduating, but what is your take on like future students, like knowing this has happened and it still hasn't been recovered?
Not to be too shady, but I think it's interesting that they don't know when the parking lot for students are getting done, but they do have a good idea when Broadview is getting finished being built.
Yes.
That's just something I find super interesting.
Very true.
It's really, I just think it's super frustrating. It's really frustrating because a parking lot, you shouldn't have to pay for a place to park that you can only park in during certain weather. And also they don't have a plan for what happens if there is a flood, or what happens with things like that. It was just so unorganized, and I truly don't blame the RA or the RC or things like that, because it doesn't start with them. It starts with actual, you know, administration and like other people like creating. And
they were out there helping you during it too.
I am so grateful for the RAs and for just the students. Like the compassion that they had was just so nice. It was so overwhelming. I'm really grateful for the community. Not so grateful for UPD or the administration or Mike Kopas.
Any final thoughts?
I hope they get this fixed soon and they start listening to the students, you know, getting even the money that I got back from my car, the money that I got back from, you know, to the insurance. Like it was a lot of work doing all of that. And though, yes, it does fall on me, obviously, like this happened, it would have been nice to at least have someone else kind of guide you into this sort
Right.
of thing.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Brielle Nostro, for joining us here today. I've been your host, Sydney Nocerino, and thanks for joining us here at Purchase Broadcast Studios.